And yeah, so welcome everyone. This is indeed an ID Power Hour, which is one of the many events L&D Shaker host. This one is an online one, and it has usually a monthly cadence. And of course, as the name maybe says, it's about 60 minutes, and we focus on topics that are interesting for both wannabes and maybe more seasoned, ID professionals. And today we are here with Roy. You might have read already about him, but of course, like he's a learning innovator at aNewSpring. And I mean, I'm very excited because as I think we all share, we love models. And today Roy's going to talk about something that's been working on and that has practical applications for all of us. So yeah, Roy, please take the stage. And in the meantime, welcome to everybody else that actually has been joining while I was talking. Roy, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much, Samuele, for asking me and working on this together. I'm very happy that we can finally do this and welcome everyone to this L&D Shakers Power Hour on Help My Training Isn't Transferring, because that's one of the things that I've been exploring while creating the growth model, which I will tell you more about later. But first, before I go into all these kinds of introductions and things, I want to set the scene, set the stage. So picture this. It's an evening and you already had quite a long day of work behind you. You really wanted to learn more about how to communicate with stakeholders effectively. So what you did is that you signed up for this evening course, which was offered in your neighborhood. And it was very convenient. It was supposed to be highly interactive, engaging, and it really suited your own objectives. You got your company to cover the costs, and full of energy, you went into the building in your town where the training was hosted. You enter the classroom, you see a setup of tables with notepads on it, and the projector is beaming some light into the room, and it says, "Welcome to the training." Two experts, you see them here, are at the front of the classroom. It's the first time you see them. They start telling, and out of habit, you just start note-taking because notepads are there. Sometimes there's a question into the audience like, who knows this? And then some people raise their hands. You did get to speak briefly with the person sitting next to you when they asked you to introduce yourself. And hours and slides passed, and then the slide with Q&A came. Any question, folks? The room fell silent, processing everything that happened. But after 5 seconds, the awkward silence was broken, and one of the trainers said, "Well, great. Thanks and good luck. You'll receive the slides in your mailbox tomorrow." Overwhelmed, tired, and also a little bit dizzy, you left the building. During the short commute home, you tried to think of all the things that were discussed, and most of it you could recall, but there was also a lot of things that didn't really resonate with you. So you try to think how to implement what you've learned, but you need to get a good night of sleep first. So with a mind full of information, you try to get some well-needed shut-eye. And then in the next morning, you wake up, emails come in, the daily huddle is around the corner. So you get into action mode immediately, and you continue with all the routines as you usually do. Training? Oh, right, training. Well, no time to think about that. Time to get to work. Anyone who recognizes this situation, who maybe slightly has ever been in one of them? I see Dolores nodding, but I don't see all of you on my screen here. Anyone who can raise hands using Zoom? Who is? Yeah, I see some hands. Very nice, very nice. Well, I think it's quite a recognizable situation. There's still a lot of situations when people follow training. What I want to share with you is and I've shared this image is from Lauren Waldman, Learning Pirate. She got this from the Georgia Tech Neuro Lab, and she shared it in a session that we worked on together. What you see here, and it really resonated with me. What you see here is the brain. It's firing neurons. It's building new connections. And I think if you really want to get to the core, learning is all about making those neurons fire, about making new pathways in your brain, new connections between different parts of your brain, and building on those connections. And the more you repeat something, the stronger that pathway will be. So imagine what a training that we just described, or that I just described in this little story, what that did in the brain. I cannot imagine that it got this fiery as you see here, with all these new pathways and neurons firing up. So anyway, I think like this is the way that it works for every human being, child or adult, and it's all about building those pathways and creating connections. And but yeah, how we do that, when we look at how kids learn and how adults learn, there's a difference in our approach. I think you can recall when we link at the first story, very well, school-like, right? In front of the classroom, expert telling. But if we look at the science behind it, and especially want to dive deeper into the pedagogy versus the andragogy. So, of course, the frontal classroom approach and the education system is something we can explore in a different topic to be discussed maybe, but it's something we did from the Industrial Revolution onwards, just to make sure that we got children on the same page to prepare them for labor later in life. Right now, we're educating children with a different purpose, I think, so maybe we should alter it, but anyway, not for now. Let us focus on the right side of this image, and that's the science of how adults learn. And there's quite some difference on how you motivate adults to learn something as opposed to children. So this is a theory by Malcolm Knowles, and he came up with about 6 different special sort of needs or things you need to consider when you teach adults. So the first thing is the need to know. If you teach adults something, they need to know the reason for learning something. It's not because they've never seen it or because they have to start mathematics and calculating. They need to know, why are you teaching me this? Very important first part. But also, adults have a foundation. They have experience, also errors that they made, and that provides the basis for learning activities for adults. But also self-concept. Adults need to be responsible for their decisions when it comes to education. So they need to be involved in the planning and the evaluation of the instruction that they're receiving. And readiness. So adults are most interested in learning subjects that have immediate relevance to their work and or personal lives. Otherwise, just people won't learn if it doesn't have that relevance. Orientation. So children are quite content-oriented. They receive everything, whereas adult learning is more problem-centered. So they need to have a challenge, solve that challenge, and learn about that challenge and solve challenges in their learning as well, and not just receive the content and do nothing with it. But that orientation is very, very important. And last but not least, adults respond better to internal versus external motivators, which is also different when it comes to pedagogy. So I think a very important thing to take into account when we design our learning experiences, when we try to make sure that the things that we learn them, they're really going to apply that in the workplace. So when you think back of the first story, and you now see this one, where we want to go is more this situation than the other situation. Again, I'm not saying that it necessarily needs to be a classroom, but the vibe and the learning in this picture is already very different than in the first. It fits the andragogy principle way better. It's more collaborative. It's less frontal classroom. There's not a teacher in front of the classroom. There's someone in the classroom talking to people, people talking to each other. So take the important aspects of adult learning into account and design your learning experiences for that. So in today's session, we will dive deeper into what it takes to create a training that really helps people learn and apply it in the workplace. And I'm not just going to tell you, I mean, I feel that I've already been talking way too much. You're going to build that up yourself together, because we're a community and we want to learn together. So don't expect a setting like in the first picture, but more in setting like this in this picture, because I believe that together we know more. All right, so now we've quickly set the scene. I still want to do sort of a quick introduction that you at least know who's this guy that's been doing all the storytelling to me. Well, as Samuel said, I'm Roy. I work as a learning innovator at aNewSpring, which is a very fancy title, I think. I'm mainly responsible for inspiring our community, for inspiring our audience with insights on learning and making sure that all the insights that are out there on learning also get back to our company, and that we can process these insights into stuff that's relevant for our proposition. I'm doing a lot of different stuff, newsletters. We're hosting Love to Learn experiences every now and then with very cool guests like Lauren Waldman, but also Will Tolheimer, Megan Torrance, done cool sessions to, well, at least educate our audience. And our audience are people who want to help other people learn. I have an MSc in Educational Sciences, which is a real thing in the Netherlands. I'm not sure if you have that in your country as well, but in the Netherlands we get trained for that, which is really cool. And I have over 9 years of implementing learning technology at a company where I was an instructional designer, but also at aNewSpring, where I work now as a customer success manager, and then now as a learning innovator. So feel free to link on LinkedIn. I try to share a lot of stuff there as well, and I'm happy to connect with you. And a little bit about aNewSpring, because you might think, all right, sounds interesting, nice, hosting all these events and stuff. But what we do, we're actually a sort of a training improvement engine, and we've got 3 big pillars that we're working on or working with. So first of all is the learning know-how. We have over 20 years of experience with training and workplace learning, and we share a lot of that knowledge through events, through content that we're creating. We develop our own learning platform where we try to combine technology and the human touch. So our technology supports tailored individual learning journeys, which are easy to use and fast to implement. And we have a big community that we're trying to build, or at least to gather all these like-minded pioneers, people who are also passionate about learning and about helping other people learn. So we're in this game together. Also, what I just said at one of my last things, together you know more. So we really want to learn from each other, inspire each other, and make sure that we bring this whole training business to the next level. All right, so that's it for my introductions. Let's get started, so to say. Samuele told me that I think it was on Monday you received an email where I asked you a couple of questions to reflect on. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but if you haven't seen it, I wanted to reflect on the following questions. So think back to a training that you either designed or followed, and ask yourself the following questions. What made it that this training was effective, and why? Why did you feel that training was effective? And was there also a part of the training less effective, or that had less impact than you had hoped or expected? And if yes, why was that? Also very curious. And I mainly wanted to pose that question to you beforehand so you could already think about it. First of all, whether this whole session was relevant to you, of course, but also because we're going to deep dive a bit into those two topics using a Miro board. So what I want to do, I want to split up in groups of 2, 3, maybe 4, depending on how many people there are. I'll also leave that up to you, Samuele. What's good? And then I want you to sort of brainstorm a little bit about these questions for 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Just talk a little bit about, all right, what struck you? What made a training that you thought of effective and why, or not effective. Write the most important elements that you gathered in keywords on a Miro board, on a post-it, and then we'll just go over these in about 15 minutes. So you have 15 minutes to, as a group, gather all these elements, why your training was effective or why the training wasn't effective. And I deliberately didn't give you any examples because I don't want to influence your thinking, but just everything is good. It can be, well, no, I'm not going to do it. You can figure it out yourself. Very curious what you come up with. So we're going to go into breakouts, and I believe that we'll have breakout 1 until, well, I don't know. There's about 30 people here.
10, yeah, 10-ish, right?
Yeah, about 10 groups, 9, 10 groups. So if you're in breakout 1, you're on the Miro board also group 1, and if you're breakout 5, then on Miro you're also group 5. So keep that into account. I think we'll share the. I don't have the chat in front of me now.
Yeah, the Miro board is in the chat, and I think, Roy, you will also maybe hop from one room to the other, right?
Yeah, definitely. And
Perfect.
I see there's indeed already people here.
Perfect.
So before we dive in, let's wait until the breakout you're in, and then
I'm gonna
we'll start the timer as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so many comments, many post-its on the board.
Oh, a lot of post-its. I love it. Everyone's been so active. I didn't expect anything else from the L&D Shakers community, so congrats to everyone. It's always so cool to see this work, because you can think of something, but it still needs to work. So again, compliments to everyone. Also the 3 groups that I listened into, good conversations, and I hope that you can be connecting afterwards to each other as well, because of course it's nice to learn something about a topic, but we're also here to network and share challenges and learn from each other. So keep that in mind. Really nice to see. This was the first part of the interactive session. I want to deep dive a little bit into the growth training improvement model, because that's sort of the thing that led me here. I've been working on this model for a while now with my colleagues, and we mainly created it because we felt that there was a need for trainers, training providers to have sort of a benchmark, or at least an assessment they could hold their training against to see, is my training really helping people learn? And we looked at it as a maturity model, but then I thought, I don't think training really should be captured into a maturity model, because it's not that if you are doing these things and then you're doing this thing that's already means that you're to the next level or something, and that it can be this linear thing. There are different components that play a role when it comes to creating an effective training, to making sure that you really help people learn. So instead of a maturity model, we came up with a model that has 6 different pillars and that describe important elements that we think contribute to an effective and impactful training. And I already saw someone saying, what is then an effective training? Is that good ROI, or that people are happy? But I think a good training is when it's something that people can use in their day-to-day job. If it helps them with a challenge that they're experiencing, for example. Well, after creating the growth model, during the creation of the growth model, we came up with a sort of a pitch, a story on how we think learning should work. And that's this one. So we believe that people learn best when the goals are crystal clear and when they align with their personal and organizational needs. And learning works when the materials are relevant to their real-world challenges and make sense to them. Growth happens when learners have opportunities to practice, to make mistakes, and to reflect. And I say here, in a safe environment. Doesn't always have to be safe. It can also be a little bit like, I don't know, a little bit, of course it has to be safe, but in a way that, I mean, learning can hurt sometimes, right? So safe environment, but sometimes it hurts. And training becomes effective when learners can apply what they've learned in real life or in workplace settings, supported by a trainer or a coach and the right tools. And finally, I believe that learning sticks when it leads to building habits that improve skills and behaviors over time. So we came up with 6 different categories. First one, the goals and objectives, making sure that they're aligned with the learner, make sure that they're aligned with the organization, but not just have the goals straight, also have the objectives straight that you want to have with your training. Second pillar is relevance and motivation. Make sure that the training that you're creating is relevant, that it has real world examples, that people have autonomy in a training, that it plays with their motivation. For example, by creating nudges beforehand, not just having this training moment, but piquing their interest beforehand as well. I had a very nice conversation with someone a couple of weeks back who said that before a training session, they sometimes stick stickers on mirrors in toilets of their customers to sort of get them going already. You know, those kind of things to pique their interest and to get their motivation coming. Well, there's lots of other things to uncover there. Give people an opportunity to learn, not just spit a lot of content on them, but give them the opportunity to practice with the things that you're trying to teach them during the training, in this case. Because then hopefully, for the fourth pillar, if you go to the workplace application and transfer, it's easier if they've practiced with it to also apply the things that they've learned in the workplace. Of course, transfer, a very hot topic. I'm a very big fan of the 12 levers of transfer effectiveness, and manager plays an important part, peers play an important part, your own motivation, but also the design of the training. Very important to this specific pillar. Fifth, we believe that trainers and technology should support the learning process and that they should also work together. So you can have great technology, but if the trainer doesn't use it, then, well, it's not going to be effective. But also use the technology what it's meant for. As my colleague Gertrise always says, a fool with a tool is still a fool. So make sure that you use it correctly and for the right intention. And last, which may be a little bit controversial, sixth pillar is the habits, because I think practicing in a training is one thing, applying it in your own workplace 2 or 3 times is a second thing, but really creating a habit out of something that changes your routines and that you can really implement in your day-to-day life, that's sort of, in most trainings, the end goal that we're achieving for. If you look at a cybersecurity training, it's very nice if you practice with not opening a phishing mail. You can send a test email once or twice. But if you really make a habit out of checking the email address from every email that looks suspicious, that's something that you want to get, and not just for the first email that you're getting after this training. So making a habit out of something is, in my objective, one of the end goals of what we want to achieve. So these are the six pillars, 6 categories of the growth model. I deliberately don't want to have this session as I'm going to dive deep in all these 6 pillars, so listen to me. What I want to do next, we have 20 minutes, 19 minutes left. I want to go back to what we just did. And looking at the knowledge that you now have about how we think about learning and about the growth model, revisit your post-its and then think, if I look at this post-it, in which of the 6 categories would this belong to? So I already saw some about reflection. I saw some about applying things. Look at the different categories. Here are they on the screen as well, with their sort of explanation behind it. And go back with your group to the post-its that you've created and try to drag them to exercise 2, to one of the 6 pillars. And you can discuss that with each other and see which one fits best. If it doesn't fit, you can also drag them somewhere outside of the screen, but I hope that every of the things that you said that were effective or weren't effective can be put onto one of these pillars. I also noticed that some people did what works and what doesn't work, because those were the questions. Let's see if we can put the things that work on top and the things that don't work on the bottom of the column of the, how do you say that? Of the quadrant. Hope that makes sense. So let's spend another, well, 15 is a bit optimistic. Let's spend 10 minutes to put our post-its from the one side to the other, again in our breakout rooms. Is it possible to do the same breakouts?
Yes, yes, I'm going to open the same
Perfect.
ones.
All right.
See you later then.
And then we'll be back in 10 minutes. I'm not sure if we were the only group that was cut off abruptly in the middle of a sentence. So apologies for that, Kelly. But she shared the very wise sentence of Confucius with us. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. And involve me and I will learn. Something like that, right? Yeah, there she goes. Put it in the chat. Which was a very nice nice addition to our conversation on how effective training works. And in the meantime, I also had an eye on the Miro board, and I was very happy to see all the different post-its being transferred from one place to the other. We have 5 minutes left, so I want to do a quick rundown of what happened here. So this is the Miro board that everyone has been seeing. What I notice is quite heavy load on the relevance and motivation and the opportunity to learn. That feels recognizable. So those are two categories that resonate with people the most, and especially I think because it's just so important to make people active in their learning, to make sure that they do something in the training, but also to make sure that it links to a real world challenge, to a problem that they experience, to have them engaged and motivated during the training. So very, very interesting. And also looking at all the different things in the specific Miro board. So activate people early in the session, draw on participants' experience and have them share, related with personal stories. Very important for the relevance. But if you look at why is it ineffective? No practical application, no audience participation. Looking at opportunity to learn, a buddy system, limit presented content, let participants talk about their experience, space for self-reflection, all very, very valuable. I think what we'll do is, well, you all have access to the Miro board now. You know the link and the password. Make use of it. Take a snapshot, look at the different categories. What can you take away from this session that you can implement tomorrow? And that's also something that I wanted to end with. So short reflection. What are you currently working on that you could use, or the idea behind this model for? And what's one thing that you would want to do differently or change after this power hour? And of course, you don't necessarily have to change something. I also had people looking at this and saying, I'm already happy that I got sort of reinstated or reinforced that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing quite well, which is also a great thing, of course, especially if you're maybe not that experienced into L&D or giving training, and you're just insecure about what you're doing, but you see that a lot of the things here you're already doing. So that's of course also an interesting one. Feel free to use the chat or speak up. That's also great. What would one thing be that you do differently or change after this power hour? And I hope you're not shy of interaction now. Phoebe?
I think I would give more choice to my learners. I think I often am very stuck on trying to get through the agenda or the content and, doing it exactly how I designed it. But I think giving more choices to my learners, I think would be more helpful.
Autonomy. Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, great one. Anyone else? I think we have time for one or two more. Short takeaways.
There is a comment in the chat. I'm doing training
Hey.
for new leaders, and we'll really focus on activating them, sharing personal stories, or just asking questions. And another one, I will double check my programs according to this model to decide if I need to change anything.
Right. Well, that's, I think, a very good one to end with. I want to be respectful of your time as well. We have one more minute. Samuele will drop a link in the chat. That's the link to our growth assessment. It's free. This was not a sales pitch. This was hopefully all to inspire you. But the growth model is a free thing you can assess yourself with. So you can go through the assessment. There are 6 categories, 6 statements per category, and it will give you a personalized report afterwards with some tips and tricks and science-based insights on how you can improve your training. So, Katrina, if you want to test the model, then you can definitely do that yourself. So check out the link by Samuele. I also see a lot of LinkedIn links in there. Feel free to connect with me and with each other, of course. I want to thank you very much for your lovely participation, for your great insights, for the active Miro board that you've all created. So thanks so much.